snacks in this room? I'm hungry.
I do. Just reach in the front zipper of that briefcase, and you can have a Kind bar.
Yeah, but don't look in the back. Don't look in the back zipper.
Yeah, no, that's where.
Just don't look in the back zipper. You never know what you might find.
The DVDs are all back there. DVDs.
I don't want to see any of that. Well, what's going on, fellas? How you doing?
Good.
Jim and I are twinning today. How cute are we?
You sound like you're underwater.
I wish he was.
Jim, that's really rude.
I know.
Well, I'm hungry.
What an exciting few days we've had.
We're getting back.
Something like that.
Is that what's called going viral on Facebook, is it?
Yeah, Facebook has been, social media has been pretty 3 or 4 days.
Most of it was spurned on by you, Jim.
Listen, I'm going to tell it's a month to go to Moscone. This is where it starts for me. So I've done a little bit of poking, but it's more of a warm up rather than the main event.
There's plenty to come for sure. Yeah.
Well, Jim, what's your thoughts as the European representative here? What do you think?
Well, the last podcast, I think it was the last one that I was on with you guys, that I was in a bit of a rush, but at the end of before I went away, I said that my 2 picks would be Jason Shaw and David Alcaide. And I posted on my Facebook profile weeks ago that would be my choice. So I fully understand Alex's choice. Just mention one thing on that. Molina Mike put on his timeline, or somebody answered to it and said that they'd seen the podcast and they saw my reasonings for David Alcaide and it made sense. And Molina suggested that I may have known who the picks were before I should have known. I can promise everybody and guarantee you, I don't get that kind of information. Me and Alex, we talk about stuff, we discuss picks and stuff like that, but I find out who the picks are at the same time as everybody else does. It just so happens that we kind of think the same. He's made 6 wildcard picks now in the 3 years. There's been one that I've disagreed with, or one that was different from one of the ones. Funnily enough, that was also Federer. I'd have put Federer in last year instead of Kachi. But I do not get that kind of information. We talk about stuff, we bounce ideas, or he bounces ideas off me, but I don't get to find out before everybody else does. So that's just nonsense in amongst a lot of other nonsense that's been going on.
Yeah.
But I personally think if you pick Federer, yeah, great. But I also see 100% where he's coming from picking David. Yeah.
Yeah. His argument for picking David, has some logic. Argument for picking Federer would have had plenty of logic to it. His argument for picking 3 or 4 guys had logic to it. There were a lot of options. There's no doubt about it. I think social media on tilt was the perceived the pick was or wasn't at least semi-directed. So in another podcast, admitted that he had a conversation with Emma, suggested that he favor people who had ranking points over people who didn't. So that opens up to me a whole can of worms that really didn't need to be opened. To even understand the logic of saying, listen, we've spent a lot of time, put a lot of effort into creating this events that are part of this 9-ball pool natural ranking system. If they decide ahead of time, you have to play in 50% of these tournaments, be considered even for the wild card, that would still open the field to 100 players. Understood that, and it would have allowed more for transparency than looking like influenced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but a lot of it's kind of self-explanatory as well. I mean, if a lot of people were calling for Federer to be a natural pick because he was top of the AZ Billiards money ranking, but that
Okay.
that for me is, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but it's not. It doesn't hold as much weight as your 9-ball ranking, because that's the whole idea of having the 9-ball ranking. And it seems to me quite obvious. I mean, a captain shouldn't have to be told, wait a minute, we have our own, by the way, we have our own ranking, you know. And I've also said before that I find at this stage of the picks, the ranking becomes slightly irrelevant. You've had your opportunity to qualify through the ranking, and that's the top 3. Now, those 3 guys, their ranking was based purely on the Matchroom ranking. They didn't get any extra weight given to them on the basis of other tournaments outside of the 9-ball ranking. So why should the wild card get any extra weight on the basis of tournaments outside of the 9-ball ranking? You know, let's say number 4 is only $500 behind number 3, but snapped off a $20,000 one pocket tournament. Now, the guy that's getting a wild card is being given the wild card because he came second in that tournament, but the guy who won it got nothing for it, and it would have put him automatically in the top 3. Did that make sense? So it
does, but to me, your assumption that people based leading the AZ money list, and people may have said that. I think most people said that he's a better player, period. 9-ball, one pocket, straight pool, whatever. So I think more people, they didn't pick the best player. Not
it could be.
That, you know, so it depends on which side, with not including one pocket or bar table, whatever. Fine, I get that. So
I also see a lot of these people contradicting themselves as well. I mean, only like a week or 2 weeks ago, Jason Shaw drills Shane Van Boning 120 to 80, playing 9-ball using the Matchroom 9-ball break. And the first thing that a lot of people are jumping on was, well, he's not going to do him playing 10-ball like that. I bet he won't take on a big set 10-ball. So they're obviously saying that 10-ball is a different game, and that the nuances, the break perhaps, then favour Shane more. So Jason can't beat Shane like that playing 10-ball. But now Federer beats David Alcaide 11-1 playing 10-ball on a 10-foot, and everyone's saying that's proof that he should be in the Mosconi Cup playing 9-ball. And it's the same people saying that. The same people who said 10-ball's a different game are now saying it's the same, and it proves that Federer should be on the team. These are the kind of things that annoy me. You know, people contradicting themselves. When it works for them in one situation, they use it. When it doesn't work in another situation, they don't use it. You know, and that kind of stuff starts to irritate me. You know, you either, you know, stand by what you say and stop going back and forward between, you know, it's all the same, it's rotation. And then when Shane gets beat, yeah, but he doesn't have his 10-ball break. Well, which, yeah.
On topics that annoy us for 1,000, can you believe how like disrespected David Alcaide is getting out of all of this? I mean, the dude is a multiple world master champion. I mean, people are saying like they're picking Fedor, or they should have picked Fedor like David Alcaide can't hold a pool cue. I mean, the guy is an absolute monster pool player as well. And this is the benefit that Europe has, right? I mean, if it's not this person, then it's this person. If it's not this person, then it's this person. And every single one of those players is more worthy than any player on the U.S. side. Fedor's the fan. Fedor's the fan pick, and I get that. Everybody really loves Fedor, but at the end of the day, it's not like David Alcaide is like, oh my God, how did you ever pick that guy? He has no reason to be there.
Well, you know what it is, and I mean, I was speaking to somebody today. I won't drop any names, and they likened this very much to. I mean, it's been talked about whether this is a political decision. And if you want to talk about politics, this whole kickback reminds me very much of the American political system and political races in the last years.
Fair.
Where as soon as people don't get what they want, they start shouting foul and abusing everybody, and it's all rubbish. And there has to be something going on behind the scenes. This isn't fair. Recount the votes, all that kind of stuff. And it just it was quite a funny analogy, and I thought it is correct. It is the same kind of reaction. Everyone thinks there must be something stinky that's gone on. They can't just accept that somebody chose David because he felt that in that team he would fit better. I made my pick as David, nothing political about it. So maybe it's easier for me, I wrote this on Facebook, maybe it's just easier for me to accept Alex's decision because it's the same as what my decision would have been. And there is no political bias whatsoever for me in making my choice. So it's easier for me to accept that there was nothing involved in Alex. Whether or not what Emily said to him about using a different ranking, maybe that knocked, you create a sort of a point system, pros and cons, if you're choosing two things, and you have your pros for one, your cons for. Now, if one of the massive, big weighted points on the pro side of Fedor was his AZ Billiard moneyless ranking, but he was told he wasn't allowed to use that, when he removes that, then the balance is gone, and then it's all of a sudden Alcaide just seems like the natural selection, because he's just got more weight, he's got more points in your head as to who you're going to pick, For me, that wasn't the case. I just picked, for me, I'll be honest with you, if FSR isn't in the team, then Alcaide's not in the team. That was for me, his experience and FSR. I openly said that, and I stand by that. People say he doesn't need his handheld FSR. No, he doesn't. But just the two of them together, the atmosphere it will create with the rest of the team as well, it's going to be so bubbly and bouncy. They're going to be loving it, And if FSR does have a tough day, Jason Shaw's a monster at Mosconi Cup. Did he just walk straight into it and perform straight away? No. It took him a couple of years to learn how to play Mosconi Cup and to learn how to control his emotions and to be able to balance the emotional side of it and the playing side of it. FSR could be the same. And if that does happen, who do you want standing there beside him? David Alcaide. And he's never really let us down. He's always played well. He's always got his points. He can play doubles with anybody. It just seemed a natural pick to me. And this whole conspiracy theory and everything going on Facebook and people blowing up and saying that, Laley's getting abused as well. I've spoken to him, and he doesn't know what to make of it. He just doesn't. I think we're all a little bit blown away by the fact that everybody in Europe, or 99% of people that are interested in the European side of it, have just gone, oh, well, yeah, kind of makes sense. And the Americans have just gone nuts. Wow. It's understandable. But some of the stuff that's getting said in Facebook is ridiculous. Wow. If you're going to turn around and say, I think that Matchroom told Alex Laley not to pick Fedor, and then the very next day you go on Facebook and say Fedor should now come and play for the USA. Well, hold on a minute. It's not Europe that stopped him playing. It was Matchroom. So why would he go and play for the USA and just go onto the other side and still play with Matchroom? Everybody just seems to be a little bit confused about what they think might have happened. And I don't think anyone, I think it's all.
Well, I think at the end of the day, Fedor is trying to become a U.S. citizen, so that makes sense. But let me address something. So Mike and I are both.
It takes 5 years. It takes 5 years. People are saying that he's going to be the pick for this year. That's why it's taken so long.
That's stupid.
But these are the same kind of idiots that are making these assumptions and throwing out all these stupid conspiracy theories.
But let me address this. Mike and I are both in a hotel, and we're working off the hotel Wi-Fi. And what I'm finding out over the last couple podcasts is Wi-Fi just never works in hotels. So.
No.
This is what it is. Sorry about that, guys. This is the best we can do for now. We're at the International Open, so we can't really be anywhere else to do the podcast. As far as one of the things that you had said in there, Jim, is there was nobody that was trumpeting Fedor harder than me earlier than me, and back in July, I was the one who said on the podcast, I would still pick Fedor, even if he can't, even once the ban was lifted, I would pick Fedor right then and there because he's the best player. And that conveniently gave him the opportunity to have the runway of the US Open. And what I said is in the US Open going into that, it's his to win, but it's also his to lose.
And all he had to do, in my mind, was make a top 16 pick. Maybe he'll get picked, maybe he won't, but I think the top 16 would literally get you in. And what it ended up being was he lost to Tyler, who ended up getting announced. And like, if he loses to, let's say, Bader Aldawadi or Koping Chung or something like that, maybe he's still on the team. But losing to Tyler, I think, is what damned him to not get picked. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But in my mind, I just don't see how you can lose to Tyler in a round of 64 and still get a spot. It's just kind of how I look at it.
But going on the US Open, let's go back to this whole conspiracy theory that, I mean, there's somebody in here called Ronnie Rose. Ronnie Rose claims to know that Alex was told not to pick him. And then says he still respects Alex's pick, which seems a bit weird. But Ronnie, if you want to tell us exactly where you found this information from and who's told you that Alex was told, then we'd love to hear it. But let's say that all of a sudden, the ban was lifted. Matchroom said, okay, we welcome you back with open arms, Fedor. Yeah. They even put Fedor, I believe they put him on the head poster for the entire US Open. He was on the main poster, I believe. So they've opened it back with welcomed arms. Okay, you're not allowed to wear the Russian flag. You wear the independent Olympic, whatever flag it is they call. But we welcome you back to Matchroom events and you're allowed to play again. For me, that for me shows that they've drawn a line under it and said, it's for us, it's finished. We'll welcome you back. Why would they now then say, yeah, but you're not really? Why would they welcome him back for the US Open and then tell Alex Lely, but he's not allowed to play Mosconi Cup? That wouldn't make any sense. Just don't let him play the US Open either. Don't give him the opportunity to win the US Open. If you're going to give the guy the opportunity to win the US Open, but you don't want him in Mosconi Cup and the guy's playing as well as he's playing, it just doesn't make any sense. You just wouldn't let him play the US Open either and make sure he can't get in the team. So it just doesn't all add up. This whole idea, it just, in my head, it doesn't add up properly. Ronnie Ross, he didn't say it on the podcast. See, this is another thing. That's rubbish. He did not say on the podcast that he was told not to pick Fedor. Go listen to it again.
Yeah, I think the confusing part of it is he can't use the money list for that. And
Yes.
that makes sense, right? Because at the end of the day, what is Albin on the money list? He's probably top 10. But he has absolutely zero gambling matches. Well, Fedor had 2 gambling matches that contributed to his nearly 200,000 or over 200,000, whatever it is. He has 2 gambling matches in there where if he's putting up 20K aside and he wins that, well, then he just won 40K, and that's contributed towards it. I can't remember who did Fedor play. Did he play Carlo Beato?
He played against some money that he won was against Jeff Luna. Yeah, Jeff Luna.
I think Carlo Beato, right?
Yeah.
So like whatever they had in the middle, that counts towards your money total. Jeffrey DeLuna may have been last year. I think that one might, but I think Carlo Beato was this year. Frost, he played Scott Frost? Yeah, maybe one pocket. I would assume. Oh yeah. So that counts towards his money total. Like, so why would you take into account a gambling match with one pocket towards your total and then have it count towards a Matchroom 9-ball event? I mean, you can't. So I think what the confusion there is Alex Lely said that you cannot take into account the money rankings because those money rankings can come from all over the place. And theoretically, at the end of the day, Tony Chohan's way up in there too. And Tony Chohan hasn't cashed I don't know that he's cashed a non-one pocket event this year, but he's close
but they also don't remove
to top 10.
On that list, they also don't remove money from your score if you lose a match.
Sure. Yeah.
Which makes no sense to me as well. So you only get credited for the matches you win, and you don't get penalized for the matches that you don't win. So just play loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, and hope you win 50% of them, and you're top of the list.
Yeah.
Play a money match every week, and you're going to get top of the AZ Billiards list. I'll tell you what, there's a kid in Saudi Arabia, I think it is, who's about to go top of the money list by winning one event. 266,000 for the event he's playing just now. Second is 80,000. It's finished, I think it's now. The kid gets coached by Johan. And technically, he goes top of the money list now.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a Chinese 8-ball event that's happening in the coming months too. Maybe right after the Moscone Cup. That's first prize is $750,000.
Yeah. So these money lists.
At the end of the day, like you can't actually verify the money, right? So if Jim and I are all right, Jim, jump on a plane. We're gonna play a big set next week. We're gonna play a race to 100 10-ball for $450 million.
That's it. I'm in Moscone next year.
Yeah, Hey, I'm gonna win.
No, we'll play another. No, we'll play another
Yeah,
one.
we'll run it back. we'll
play
it
another
back.
one straight after. You can win that one because I don't get the money taken off my total.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like we're creating silly situations, but we all know situations where, I mean, it's happened absolutely where players were playing for X amount of dollars in the middle, and it's kind of just used to sell. I mean, pay-per-view tickets, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, but if you were actually going to count that towards your Matchroom rankings, I mean, Mike, you've been listening. What do you think?
I think we spent 20 minutes talking about money, and I don't feel that this has anything to do with money. I think it has to do with, Peter's the best player and should be on the team, and then Alex's his decision was at least influenced in some way, allowing him to focus more on the Matchroom money list. Otherwise, as he picked Federer, hands down. He said that in September, that if the last in Federer, he wouldn't pick anyone in front of either one of them. So did that change? And I asked him why. The first thing he said was not Federer didn't play well at the U.S. Open. The first thing he said wasn't great leader. The first thing he said was, I talked with Emily at Matchroom. Okay, that was the
first thing he said.
Think back on it. That was the first response he had to my question. That was his response to my question. Talk with Emily. There was some emphasis to be put on her. So he was influenced by that. There's no doubt in the world he was influenced by that. I don't think that that's a bad thing to focus more on the ranking. But just say that up front. Don't say that when you're the captain has 100% autonomy in making his pick. That to me, I think people have with all this, and it's a problem that I have with it. But you can't then say that and say, well, we're focusing more on the money list, the real money list, because David was, and you talk about his experience and his leadership. Niels was ahead of David. Niels has more experience, just as much leadership, and is one of the best Moscone players ever for Team Europe.
But he's not Spanish.
There's some. I'm sorry.
He's not Spanish.
Because he's not Spanish.
He's not FSR's best mate. I'm telling you,
we are putting a lot of stock in this Spanish handhold back.
There is a lot of stock in it. It's a heavy weighted argument.
An opinion, obviously mine. I think that's being used way too casually. Check in this box that the guy speaks Spanish. That to me is ridiculous.
Speaks Spanish? No.
I think what he's saying is they're just best friends, and it all comes back to the idea that because FSR is a rookie, we have to hold his hand and make sure that everything's going to be okay if things go wrong. That's what it comes down to. You can spin it any way you want it, Jim, but that's exactly what it is. You're trying to hold his hand in case things go wrong.
You are putting in a contingency plan for if he doesn't feel comfortable out there. You're putting in a contingency. If FSR plays the way he's been playing all year, and Jason does what he's supposed to do, and Albin does what he's supposed to do, and Phila does what he's supposed to do, as team captain, you've won the Moscone Cup. If those four guys perform, you've won the Moscone Cup.
So they don't have the leadership, Francisco, unless they have a countrymen there. That's what you're saying?
It's not, you're making it too black and white. You have the opportunity to have a contingency just in case. And the best contingency is to have his best mate there. That is the best, and it just happens to be somebody who has a pretty good Mosconi Cup record.
And I think most people would argue the best contingency is they have the best player there, and then you don't have to worry about whether you have plenty of points with the best players in the world. If you got the four best players in the world, you probably don't even need that.
No, you maybe you don't, which is why I'm saying if FSR and the three backbones of the team over the last years, if they perform the way they're supposed to, then it's done. And you can say the best contingency is to put the best player in. I can name so many teams that have had the best individuals but do not make a good team. The best individuals do not always make the best team.
But
to create the best team you can.
Stop that, Jim, because yes, you're right. Mike Duchene is one of the three best players in the U.S. and he makes.
I'm not just talking about Poole,
but no. You know damn well that none of these players that we're talking about, we have to worry about being bad team dynamic players. We've seen it too many times in the past. We know that's not the case.
How many times have you seen Federer playing a team?
We're not talking about Federer. We're talking about the
Yes, you are. This is what it's all about. It's all about Federer getting in because he's the best player in the world at the moment, apparently.
No, we're talking about the team dynamic.
Give me any proof whatsoever that on a Mosconi single table arena in front of a hostile crowd playing short race 9-ball in a team event, give me any proof whatsoever that he's better than David Alcaide. Any proof whatsoever. I can give you loads of proof that Alcaide can do it.
I'm not arguing with that. What I'm saying is you're talking about a team dynamic and how you have to pick a fifth player to make sure that you don't implode a team. You cannot implode a team with Jason, Albin, and Josh. You just can't do it. I mean, there's enough leadership there and there's enough experience there that nothing's going to happen. You can't pick a player that's going to blow it up.
No, you can't.
Can you pick I'm
not going to name anybody and throw them under the bus.
I will. Can you pick a worse player for team dynamics than Eklund Kachi? And that didn't work. Right? That didn't work. I mean, Eklund Kachi, if there's a knock on him, he's an amazing talent, but he's not a team guy. And he still won last year with that team, with that core of guys.
Correct. And one of those guys was Alcaide.
Sure.
And if you listen to Alex, he said he was one of the guys that stood up and was a leader in that team when things were a little bit tough.
And Espanol. All I'm saying is that I don't see who you pick two players anywhere in Europe, any players that you want, name them right now. Who is going to derail Josh, Albin, and Jason? Who can ruin that team?
It's not about ruining the team. You're saying
about team dynamics.
What you're doing is you're saying with those guys in it, there is room to put anyone you want in,
and maintain team dynamics. Yes.
Run that one by Marcus Chamat and see how that one worked for him.
Marcus Chamat was not a leader of men.
That was a bad captain.
Ask him. He thought he could put anybody in.
But Marcus, he wasn't a good captain.
Marcus thought he could put anybody in the team as long as he had 2 or 3 players.
Yes, but Marcus never tried to be a captain.
That's because he was reading European posts on social media that the number 20 through 25 on Europe would be favored against the U.S. So listen to.
Well, no, no, that's not true. He picked as a rule, as his own rule. He picked the number 4 in the ranking as one of his wild cards every single year because he felt they deserved to be in the team as well. But it doesn't work. You're not making the most of your wild cards then. You're not making the most of your wild cards. It's not designed for
having a leader at the top. But Jim, we're talking about having a leader at the top. And with Alex Lely as a leader on top, he keeps his players in line. Those players follow after him. Marcus Chamat.
We lost you, Nate. We lost you there for a second.
Marcus Chamat spent more time with his Napoleon hat trying to make a clown of himself and having fun with the crowd than he did leading his team, from what I saw when I was there. He was having fun with it because he never.
So Alex
Leley's
job is to be the leader of the team. Yeah, that's what you said.
His job is to be the captain of the team. Is there anything else
Captain
that you
of
want
the
to
team.
know?
Yeah. When does that job start? What's the first action that he does as the captain of the team?
Picks his first wild card. Well,
Picks
I
his
mean, once
wild card. So he's started his job as captain of the team, and he's made this decision based on what he thinks is best for the team.
Yes, but what you're missing, Jim, is like the three players that I'm naming, you can't ruin it. There's no players that you can pick with how strong of a dynamic those three are going to have with Alex Leley leading them. You're talking about like.
So he's chosen, but he's chosen Alcaide to be the guy.
But what you're missing is like you're picking Alcaide because you need to like wrap this team together and make sure that it's all going to be.
No, I'm saying that
because the weakest link.
That's what swayed it. That's what gave him the benefit of the doubt. Out of all these players you named that he could have put in the team and it wouldn't have made any difference, he's had a look at them and said, "What do they bring?" You know, other than they can all play on that table. They've all proven how good they can be. They all can perform for that 4 days. It's not about what you did in January or February.
Ironically,
it's what you're going to do on those 4 days. And he's decided Alcaide's my man because he's got that extra bonus of FSR.
Well, Jim.
I don't
ironically,
understand what's so difficult to understand.
Well, hold on. Ironically, on this entire discussion, the one player who hasn't proven that yet is Fedor on that stage.
He hasn't. He's never played good in a single. He's never played good in a single matchroom arena, single table matchroom arena. Name one event that he's played well in.
This is what I agree with you actually on that. Like I said, I mean, Fedor had the opportunity to take the U.S. Open and basically not his spot in, and he didn't do it. If you look at, I'm saying it's a small sample size, to be clear. I'm not saying that Fedor wilts under pressure on these single table events. It's just a small sample size. You give him the next 10, he might snap off the next 10 single table events. He's that big of a talent. But I agree with you that at this point in Fedor's career, when you put him on a single table matchroom event, or even on the stream table of a matchroom event, and you put him against a really tough opponent, he has not lived up to his standard.
I mean, the closest thing to Mosconi Cup, I guess, is the Masters. It's a single table. There's a crowd there. It's pretty short race, 9 balls. What's his best result there? Not great, I wouldn't say. I don't think he's got very far in the tournament, has he?
I don't think he's made it semifinals.
No, he's played in a few of them now. I mean, the Mosconi is unlike anything else. There's very few events in a year that you can actually look at and say that's comparable to Mosconi Cup. But the Masters is one of them. You know, he didn't get into the Champions League pool, I don't think, this year. No, he didn't get into that. There's not the World Cup pool. Okay, it's a doubles, but you do play doubles also at Mosconi in front of a crowd, single table matchroom under the big lights, TV. It's comparable to some of the matches you'll play. He's performed there as well. You know, I don't see what Fedor's done as far as that arena and that pressure, what Fedor's done that David hasn't done. There's lots that David's done that Fedor hasn't done. Is he playing better at the moment? He's playing lights out. He's playing amazing. You can see the way he's playing when he's in amongst the balls. He just doesn't look like missing. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But it's not just about what you're doing when you're at the table. Yes, getting your points is important, but you've got to be. Alex just knows David better in that environment, and he knows what he has. He knows what he's been given by the ranking, and I guess he just. I just still think there's nothing you can say that convinced me that Fedor's is a guaranteed better pick than David. I think David's a safer pick. I think it's a more sensible pick as a captain with what you've already got. Europe doesn't need to be taking any risks. If there's any team that needs to be taking risks and trying something different, it's USA. If a European coach just stays sensible and doesn't do anything dumb, they're massive favourites to win this. And that's what they want to do at the end of it. You know? So he's maybe made a bit of that. He's maybe just taking the easy way out, the easy decision, protecting what he has. Perhaps that's what he's doing, but that's all he really needs to do to win it. It's America that has to think outside the box and come out with something, you know, a bit different in order to try and win this. Europe doesn't have to. Why take the risk? Why bother? Why not just get the guy you know and put him in with, you know, and play it safe a little bit. You know, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. It just makes sense to me. I don't see what I don't disagree with that. Mike, what do you think?
this exit of talking about who's better, Federer or David, and who's a better. It's a great barstool sports argument. That's opinion where you discuss. My discussion the entire time has been about a process that was deemed to be somewhat and what that says about the pick. That's
Mike, let me ask.
Focus. Keep talking about using the 9-ball ranking points. It's going to be really interesting to me is if Jeremy picks and is allowed to pick Earl or Billy, any of those events. So
Billy's on the ranking.
Well, Federer was on the ranking. He played in the U.S. Open and he won money, so he's on the ranking. Yeah. So it's your focus on that or not.
Well, Mike, let me ask you a question. Okay, so if Alex Laley, because I think a lot of the things that you're having a problem with right now is the way Alex originally described how he was going to make the pick and then went back on what he described he was going to use. If from the beginning, Alex Laley said, I don't care what you think and I don't have to explain myself to you, this is my pick, live with it. Would you have been better with that than the way that he went about explaining the pick?
Well, no, I mean, I said prerogative to say what he wants to say. I didn't expect him to say everything he said, to be honest with you. But my eyes and thought, okay, here's a guy who a month ago said he couldn't see not picking Federer, and all of a sudden they had all Alcaide, none of which were not in play in September. David didn't do a pick to change his argument for David. Okay, so any theory thing with me, it's just this is the fact. They had discussions about this. Okay, and I think it did. Okay, and if it did, and then that fly in the face of that, then I scratch my head again. And again, it's not like for this or anything like that. It's just if we want to make this and all that stuff, then set ground rules. If you want to set ground rules, print them out. Say this is once you say the captain has his wild card picks. If there's no parameters on him, stay the hell out of his way. And if not,
well, that's kind of what I'm hearing out of you. It sounds like you're saying like you heard a process for which he was going to make a pick, and then because he changed his mind, that's what you have the problem with. Where if he'd have told you from the beginning, bump it, I'm going to tell you who I'm going to pick, and you're going to like it, or you're going to get over it.
I still would have a problem if I found out later that there's a foul. We're making this last wildcard pick. What parameters are we using? What do we favor? That's not.
One thing I can promise you. One thing I can promise you. I mean, let's assume Alex is coach again next year. Nobody will be getting any information out of him about anything, about how he's thinking, what he's thinking.
No problem.
I mean, what this has happened is he's going to be a closed book next year, and nobody's going to get any information out of him whatsoever. Yeah.
We'll still ask the questions.
No, you won't be able to ask. Who are you going to ask? Who are you going to ask?
Say no, or I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, listen. Every Mosconi has to have a story, a background story. We had the Errol thing last year. We had Johan moving over from Europe to USA. It's always nice when we got these stories, And I'm seeing stuff on Facebook now how the US public have decided that they're going to take them with them into the arena and try and get under the skin of the European players. So it'll be interesting to see once Jason Shaw gets let loose on pick number 5, whoever that might be. And just to be clear, I don't know who that is. I have to wait for the announcement. But yeah, should be good.
I promise you, the first time David Alcaide misses a ball, the entire crowd is going to scream Fedor wouldn't have missed that. I'll guarantee it.
Yes, of course he will. But the one mistake that's been made is that they've given me and my guys 1 month to come up with a way to reply to that and to use it in our favor. So, you shouldn't have let that one out. You should have waited a little and just thrown it
shut
out
up,
as a
Jim.
surprise.
Go
Because if you want to go down that road, there's only going to be one winner.
We
Sure.
need to get over and how much impact we have on all this stuff. But let's look at the U.S. picks.
Well,
We're
we don't.
We're almost halfway through. Which is next year's points, and we don't even know who the U.S. pick is. Does that seem weird to you guys?
Well, nobody seems to be doing anything at the International Open that's going to sway it their way. So I don't understand why we don't know yet.
This tournament should not have any impact on his decision. It's for next. I think the pick should have
absolutely
been made before this tournament started for that very reason. And these players feel like they're being watched because the pick hasn't been made 100%. And it's just kind of weird to me that it hasn't. And now because of the new conspiracy theories or at least conjecture on why this has happened. There's all sorts of stories floating around. There
is also the possibility that the pick has already been made and Matchroom have it, and they've just decided that.
He told me he hasn't sent.
Okay, because I was thinking.
He could have and be not just fair, but
it did occur to me that with everything with everything that's going on at the moment and the way that social media has exploded, that they're maybe just going to wait until things calm down, and they don't need this news yet in order to get everything blown up. So they just leave it at the moment until things go a bit quiet, and then say, "And here's Errol."
Yeah, right.
Jim, you know Emily, Jim. Then to introduce a Matchroom news release in the middle of someone else's tournament.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ronnie Rose, I'm not salty. I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna be having fun like I do all the time. I ain't salty. I'm quite enjoying it. I think it's gonna be great. So I don't even know who you are. But yeah.
All right, guys. Well, why don't we're having some audio issues anyway, so this is a good time I think to close it out.
Sorry about that.
Oh, well, it is what it is. Jim,
I have to go and start looking for El Matador costumes on the internet and start growing my little moustache and learning my cha-cha-chas.
All right, Jim. On serious, one word response. One word. Who's number 5 for USA?
Earl.
Mike?
Wolford.
I hope so. I do hope that he's right. I hope it's Wolford.
I said Billy Thorpe. What the hell do I know?
I think it's going to be Earl. I do. I think it's going to be Earl.
All right. I will share with you the latest conspiracy. Funny that Jeremy was kind of told, go ahead, because Earl couldn't play because he was sick. He couldn't play in the U.S. Open. And let's see. We'll give you the chance at the International. And people coincidence that this week Earl has been on his best behavior.
My favorite part about this is with the way that his mic is breaking up.
Take that for what
all that's coming through is like, Earl, International Open, will be on the team. Best.
I thought it was fantastic.
I
thought it was fantastic on Facebook that Earl did a little interview and they were saying, why, and they asked him why he should be on the Mosconi Cup, and he said he can still
silly.
And he was saying, I've just shot 131 straight pool. I think I can play Mosconi Cup. I thought, holy crap, the bar has really been lowered. If all you need to do to get on Team America is shoot 131 balls at straight pool, brilliant. Give it a go.
Well,
I think you could even shoot 131 balls, Nate, surely.
On your table, I could probably shoot 500, those giant buckets of pockets.
You're welcome to come and try it whenever you like.
All right. Well, this has been a fun discussion, guys. Why don't we close it out here? And thanks everybody for tuning in. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to be number 5 for the Team USA. And other than that, I guess once we have the news, we'll be out with another podcast. Sound good?
All right, guys. Hey, listen, enjoy the rest of the International Open. Safe travels home, and I'll speak to you soon, yeah?
All right. Take care, everyone.